Customer lifetime value. It's one of the most important metrics, especially in your e-commerce business. We're going to show you how to calculate it. And we're going to show you all the pieces you need to actually build a dashboard around it so you can increase that number in a data-driven way. Because it's important. We know it's important. Everybody knows it's important, but getting all the data together, it kind of sucks. You can't become an analyst overnight, right? It's just not easy. So I'm Jack Tompkins with Pineapple Consulting Firm, always trying to help the small business world become more data-driven. We're going to walk you through automating data from Shopify. We're going to show you what that data looks like, and then we're going to show you how to build the different pieces of LTV within a dashboard so you can build a dashboard that ends up looking something like this. Okay, let's jump in. All right, so step one, let's get the data. So we're gonna go through a coupler of how to automate the data, but you can use make.com, you can use Datadoo. Like I said, we're gonna go through coupler. We've got affiliate links for all three of those linked below as well if you wanna use one or the other. So all of them are gonna work pretty similarly. In coupler, it looks like this. We're just gonna go to data flows. We know that we're linking up to Shopify. So I like to just start from scratch here. We're going to type Shopify in here, and then we're going to go through, and it's going to go through kind of all the different steps here. So first, obviously, you'd connect to your data, this basic settings. This is pulling the orders table right now. The example that we're going to walk through is the order line items data. So that's the one that would pull here. You can do specific date filters if you want. Setting the destination, we're going to do this in BigQuery. I've got the data pulled up here in Sheets just so we can kind of look at it in a more familiar way. But we're going to do BigQuery. So you would link up BigQuery here, and then you can obviously automate this data flow as well. So super high level, not to pitch like one service or the other, but this is the flow of everything, whether you go with any of these three or even a different option. It's connect to the data source, tell it to live somewhere, and then automate it. Okay. All right. So step two. Step two is, what does the data actually look like? So let's click through here. Obviously, this is, anonymized data. These are all fake customer email addresses and obviously fake products and stuff like that too. So as we look through this data set, we're thinking, okay, we want to do LTV. We have to have that end calculation in mind, right? So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to say, for a lifetime value of a customer, we need to define the window of data that we're looking at. So the window that we have is 1 year. So we've got the full year of 2025, and we're say, all right, within this 1 year, how many customers ordered? What was the order value? How many times did they order? We're going to get all that in a defined time frame of a year, and then we're going to say, okay, let's apply that over the course of a lifetime. Okay, so we're going to do the math later, but that's the end goal. So we just want to make sure that we have all the data fields in here. Short answer, of course, I'm actually doing this live, but all the data is in here. So we've got customer in here. We've got some breakdown categories. Like we want to see, what product has the highest LTV. We've got some things over here like manufacturer. So depending on how your Shopify is set up, you can set up different variables to be different things. So in this case, our example data has manufacturer as actually like the category of the item. If you don't have it set up this way, you can combine Shopify tables within BigQuery, look up things based off of product ID essentially, or base product ID. So to get something like a category, could already be in here. And then, there's 100 different ways you could do this. You could do first purchase, you could do whatever you want to do here, but we've got all the data in here in this order line items table. Okay. So that's big step two. The data looks right. Everything's coming in good. Step three is going to be take it from BigQuery, and then we're going to get it into Looker Studio. So when we're in BigQuery, we have all the data going on here. It's the same data that we were just looking at. So let's go to Looker Studio, and then we're just going to create a new report here. Perfect. So we've got a new report, and now we're going to say, let's link to BigQuery. So we're going to click in BigQuery. I've got a whole bunch of stuff in here. I'm going to go through Shopify data, order line items, all that good stuff. And here we go. Okay, so we got the data loaded in, and now becomes the fun part, right? So we've automated the data. We've got it running through Coupler right now into BigQuery, and of course BigQuery over Sheets, because Sheets can run out of transaction room really quickly with the row limit there. So now we're actually going to do the calculation. Okay, so let's keep going. So I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I'm going to scroll down. I've got this little note section. I'm going to drag this up just so we're going to have it as a point of reference. So first things first, if we're calculating LTV, we want to know what LTV calculation we should use, right? Because there's a bunch of different options out there, and some of them get really nitty gritty, but just a couple of examples. the one that we're going to go through is basically like a monthly purchase thing. Think like kind of specialty food. It's not a subscription basis, but people do repeat purchase about once a month for a dedicated customer. There's other options like a true subscription basis, right? So a monthly subscription, you're going to do something like a churn rate analysis there. And that's going to be part of the average lifespan piece of the LTV calculation. For something like, like furniture or like a wedding or a seasonal thing, you may just have your lifetime value is equal to your average order value because you may not really expect anybody to repeat purchase for those one-off big items. But in our case, here's our formula. So we've got LTV equals the average order value times the purchase frequency times the average lifespan. So what does that mean in individual calculations? So the AOV is total net sales over total orders. Purchase frequency is total orders to distinct customers. And then average lifespan is where things get a little bit dicey. So there's a few main options. I've got 3 options listed out here. The first one is last purchase date minus first purchase date. This is always going to underestimate the lifespan because it could still be totally active and maybe they purchased twice, but we haven't seen the third purchase yet because they've only been a customer for 2 months kind of thing. So this one will definitely undervalue it, but it is data driven, so it's somewhat reasonable. Second one is sort of the churn approach. So defining that average lifespan, 1 divided by the churn rate is the average lifespan. And the idea here is if you take a cohort of people and 25% of them are gone next month, then you have 25% is your churn rate. 1 over 25% is 4 months. So you could do something along those lines. What we're going to end up doing is a survival analysis. So this survival analysis is, let's just get the average number of months that somebody is purchasing. So in order to do that, we're actually going to go back into BigQuery and kind of talk through this. So let's go over there. Let's jump back. So in BigQuery, I've got this all kind of queued up here and you can see the results and everything going on. But all we did here was I used actually Gemini, where I just, generate some SQL with Gemini. And I said, make me a query that 1, we want the month year of the timestamp, right? So the timestamp is individual order. We want the actual month that it happens in. So we're going to say the average number of months is the thing that we care about. And then we're going to say, okay, how many distinct months does a customer actually purchase? So that's where we've got this whole section here, count distinct. We don't have to go through the actual code. This is just getting the distinct number of months per customer. So you can see my prompts up here for Gemini and it just built it for me. And then the result, I'm all the way to the right of the table here. We've got month year added, and then we've also got distinct month years for each of those customers. So there's going to be 2, 3s, 4s, something like that. Now that we've got that, there are 2 options here. One, you could save these results in BigQuery. It's the recommended approach. You just have to make this a scheduled query so it always updates with you. Or you could actually do this calculation within Looker Studio. You go in here, edit the connection, you go into custom query, and then you could just do the query there. So we're just going to link up to the actual BigQuery table though. Okay, we're going to edit the data source, and then I'm going to go back to edit connection, and then we're going to change this just to, I named this v3 code, whatever, it doesn't really matter. We're going to reconnect, and you can see, all right, great, new fields identified, perfect. We're going to let that run. There we go. Okay, so let's make these calculations now. So first, we already made AOV and purchase frequency. So here's how those come out. So we want the net sales in average order value. You could do it as gross profit or anything like that. But if you look at the data, we don't really want revenue because that includes shipping, tax, doesn't necessarily include discount, right? So you want to make sure that whatever you're using is kind of like the true cost that gets to you. So we're going to call that net sales, which in data terms is actually pre-tax price. And then we're going to count distinct order ID, right? So that's pretty straightforward. And then we're going to go over here and say purchase frequency. This is just the number of orders over the number of customers. So just 2 count distincts, pretty straightforward. The last thing that we're going to do is to add this field now is we got to do that lifespan. So this has to be average lifespan. And we're going to call this the average of the distinct month years per customer. It's just a straight average. I think that's going to be fine. Technically, it's a little bit wrong because customers they had multiple rows, but it's going to be close enough for the purposes that we need, especially in this just example data set that we're using. So let's hit save on that. And now let's actually see some numbers. So I'm just going to add a date range control so we know what we're looking at here. I'm just going to make the default, let's just call it last month. And now let's add a chart. I'm going to do just a scorecard here. And let's just see what AOV looks like first. And then, oh, whoops, that was average lifespan. Okay, great. So that's about 2 months. Sure, reasonable enough. And then I'm going to say AOV is whatever that's going to be, probably $200. Okay, 213. And then the last thing, I'm just Control C, Control V in here. Last thing is the purchase frequency. So this should be, okay, great. So this is 0.44 purchases per year per customer, essentially. All right, I suppose it would be during this time frame, right? So if we change this time frame and we actually change the default to be this whole year, we're going to get some different numbers. AOV goes up, average lifespan, good, that stays the same. Purchase frequency, good, that stays about the same. Okay, so that's saying that we've got some pretty consistent data across our months, which is awesome. So now let's just make that LTV calculation. So you can see here, LTV, we're just multiplying those three together. So what is our true lifetime value of a customer? We want AOV times purchase frequency times average lifespan. Okay, so this number should be something on the order of $400, something like that. Let's see, this may not have liked it. Sometimes in Looker Studio, you have to add a space for whatever reason, but I'm gonna click save there. We know the formula's right. So now I'm just gonna Control C, Control V, and I'm gonna do LTV in there. So we're expecting something around 400. Sure, I can believe $300. Okay, so that is our true calculated LTV. And we used this data set, or we use this kind of methodology to make it. And now we can do all sorts of things with this. So what we do with clients is we don't explain all this back end stuff because most people don't want to know it. But if you're listening this long, hopefully you want to know it. So what we end up doing is, all right, we've got the LTV, and now let's help you make decisions based off of it, right? So the thing that we really want to see is we want to look at what is the highest LTV, right? Let's look for the full year. Let's say, I think manufacturer is our kind of like category here. And then I'm going to make this LTV. So we're going to make visuals that look like this so that we can see which category has the highest LTV. So you see this one really shoots up there at almost $500. Then we can see things like, you know, what channel has the highest LTV. So we look over here, like we're gonna look at channel. We've got these options going on. So we're gonna sub this out. We're gonna make channel in here. And so if we combine something like this, let's go, okay, so who knows what these actually are, but we see TikTok there, we see announcements, organic search. So if we're to piece these together, TikTok has a good LTV of sort of like the things that we can control over here. So TikTok has a really high LTV, category 35, whatever products are in that has a really high LTV also. Is there a world where we can just say, all right, let's put some more resources behind TikTok and behind category 35, and that's going to increase our entire revenue, right? So then we say, great, we're going to do this. Here's our baseline LTV now. We're going to measure this. We're going to update this for you. We're going to keep this monitored. We're going to keep analyzing it so that hopefully this LTV goes close to $400, whatever that looks like. And then the way that we price things out is the more that we help you, the better you do, and the better we do. So we only win when you win. And that's how we do it. And this is the sort of the framework that I recommend for LTV analysis. Get all the components straightened out, get the data automated, and then have some fun going through the different pieces of LTV and all the different aspects of it. We could go into miles deep of this. We should do some trend charts and all that kind of stuff, but having the dashboard is not enough. Having the dashboard that is continuously updated, analyzed, and adjusted, that is where growth happens. And that's exactly what we do. That's the entire process for LTV calculation. There's a whole lot going on there, I know, but appreciate you staying through this whole video. And like I said, this is what we do. This is the analysis that's actually really fun. And more importantly, it's really impactful, right? Because if we find some LTV things, we can think of upsells and downsales. We can get into conversion rates. We can do all that sort of stuff once we have that baseline of what's our customer base look like, how long are they staying, what's a customer worth to us, and then that unlocks everything. LTV to CAC, conversion rates, all that stuff ends up working together once you get a really solid foundation for this LTV analysis. So as always, I've been Jack Tompkins with Pineapple Consulting Firm. Please feel free to reach out. We're always happy to help and analyze for you.